There is a rule in biology. A rule so fundamental, so obvious, so universally observed across millions of species that most scientists never even bother to state it explicitly. You cannot swallow something larger than your own body. The geometry does not work. The physics does not allow it. Every predator on Earth has a hawk. Every wolf, every shark, every snake is ultimately constrained by one hard limit. The size of what it can consume is bounded by the size of what it is. A snake that swallows a deer makes headlines precisely because it is at the absolute extreme edge of what biology permits. And even that, a snake swallowing something roughly its own diameter, pushes the boundary. Actually swallowing something larger than your entire body, that is not supposed to be possible. The gulper eel does it, routinely, not as a rare event, not as an extraordinary exception, as a standard feeding strategy built into its anatomy, refined over millions of years of evolution, perfected for the specific conditions of the deep ocean, where food is so scarce that when it arrives you cannot afford to let size stop you. This is Eurypharynx pelecanoides, the pelican eel, the gulper eel, and it is one of the most structurally impossible-looking animals that actually exists. The gulper eel was first formally described in 1882 by French zoologist Léon Valente, based on specimens recovered from deep-sea trawling expeditions in the Atlantic Ocean. Valente named the genus Eurypharynx from the Greek eury's meaning wide, and pharynx meaning throat, wide throat, which is, in retrospect, one of the more significant understatements in the history of zoological nomenclature. The species name pelecanoides, meaning pelican-like, came from the most immediately obvious feature of the animal, the jaw. Early naturalists examining the first specimens were confronted with something that did not fit any existing framework for fish anatomy. The jaw of the gulper eel is not proportionally related to its body the way virtually every other fish jaw is. It is enormous relative to everything else, disproportionate in a way that initially seemed like specimen damage, like something had gone wrong in the preservation process. It had not. That was simply what the animal looked like. For most of the 19th and early 20th century, the gulper eel remained poorly understood. Specimens were rare. Deep-sea trawling was imprecise. Animals brought to the surface from great depth were often damaged by the pressure change and the mechanical stress of the trawl itself. It was not until remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, became sophisticated enough to observe deep-sea animals in their actual environment that the full behavior of the gulper eel was documented. And what the ROV footage showed was stranger than the preserved specimens had suggested. To understand the gulper eel, you need to understand the body plan, because the gulper eel is not simply a fish with a large mouth. It is an animal that has been structurally reorganized around the function of swallowing. The total body length of an adult gulper eel ranges from approximately 75 centimeters to 1 meter. That is the entire animal from the tip of the enormous jaw to the end of the long, whip-like tail. Within that meter of total length, the jaw accounts for a quarter of it. 1/4 of the entire animal's body length is jaw. And that jaw is not simply large in the way a grouper or a moray eel has a large mouth. The jaw of the gulper eel is loosely hinged, connected to the skull by ligaments and soft tissue rather than rigid bone structures, in a way that allows it to open to angles that have no equivalent in any other fish family. The lower jaw drops, not forward the way most fish jaws work, rotating on a hinge point near the eye, down, far down, opening a gape that, when fully extended, is wider than the eel's own body diameter. A mouth that, when open, is larger than the animal that contains it. This is accomplished through a skeletal modification so significant that the gulper eel's skull structure is essentially incomparable to any other eel family. The bones that in other fish form a rigid, load-bearing jaw framework have been reduced, lightened, made more flexible. The gulper eel traded jaw strength for jaw size. It cannot bite with force, it cannot crush, but it can open wider than anything else its size, and wide is what it needs. The jaw alone is not sufficient to explain how the gulper eel swallows prey larger than itself, because swallowing requires more than opening wide. It requires somewhere for the prey to go, and the gulper eel's stomach is the second half of this biological system, and in some ways the more impressive half. The stomach of the gulper eel is not a fixed volume organ. It is expandable to a degree that has no close parallel in fish biology. The stomach wall is composed of highly elastic tissue, capable of stretching to accommodate whatever the jaw has admitted. When a gulper eel encounters prey, a fish, a crustacean, a cephalopod that is substantially larger than its own body, the jaw opens, engulfs the prey, and the stomach begins to expand around it. The skin of the abdomen stretches, the body changes shape visibly, dramatically as the stomach accommodates something that the eel's resting body could not contain. ROV footage has captured gulper eels with prey items so large that the eel's body had expanded to a roughly spherical shape in the abdominal region, unrecognizable as an eel, except for the jaw at one end and the tail at the other. A meter-long animal containing something that, uncompressed, might be larger than the eel's entire pre-meal body volume. This capacity exists because of one ecological reality. In the deep ocean, specifically at the depths where the gulper eel lives, between 500 and 3,000 meters, food is not reliably available. A meal may not come for days or weeks. When it comes, whatever it is, whatever size it is, the gulper eel cannot afford to decline it on the basis of size. The expandable stomach is not a luxury. It is a survival mechanism for an environment where the next meal has no guaranteed timeline. Here is the feature of the gulper eel that most people do not anticipate: the tail. The gulper eel's tail, the long, whip-like posterior portion of the body, ends in a small, complex structure, a bioluminescent organ, a pink, glowing tip that pulses. The tail tip of the gulper eel produces bioluminescent flashes, cold light, pulsing in patterns from a small bulb-like structure at the very end of the tail. And the behavior associated with this structure is one of the most elegant hunting adaptations documented in deep-sea biology. The gulper eel, drifting in darkness, jaw closed, body still, curls its tail forward. The glowing tip positions itself near the open mouth and pulses, a small, soft, rhythmic light. In absolute darkness at 1,000 meters below the surface, that pulsing light looks exactly like what many small deep-sea animals are programmed to approach: a bioluminescent organism, potentially food, small fish, small crustaceans, anything small enough to investigate a light source in the dark. They approach the glow. The gulper eel's jaw is already open, and the prey swims directly into the mouth it was never aware of. The jaw closes. The tail tip continues pulsing for a moment, sometimes before the eel settles back into stillness, a lure made of its own tail, positioned by curling the body into a specific shape, operated by a bioluminescent organ evolved specifically for this purpose. The gulper eel hunts large prey by engulfing, and it hunts small prey by attraction. Two independent strategies, one animal. Everything about the gulper eel makes complete sense when you understand the environment that produced it. The mesopelagic and bathypelagic zones, 500 to 3,000 meters, are among the most food-limited environments on Earth. Primary productivity happens at the surface, where sunlight allows photosynthesis. At depth, none of that energy is produced locally. Everything the gulper eel eats ultimately came from above, either as marine snow, the slow drift of organic particles from surface waters, or as animals that themselves feed in shallower zones and migrate downward. The result is an environment where food density is low, encounters are unpredictable, and the energy cost of active pursuit is often not recoverable from the prey caught. The gulper eel's response to this environment is a masterclass in energy conservation. Its muscles are reduced, not the powerful, fast-twitch muscle of an active predator. Slow, efficient, built for sustained low-energy drift rather than speed. Its bones are lightweight and partially reduced, minimizing the metabolic cost of maintaining a skeleton. Its metabolism runs slow. The cold temperature at depth suppresses biochemical reaction rates, reducing caloric requirements. The gulper eel does not chase food. It drifts, it waits, it presents its tail lure. And when something comes within range, whether small enough to be lured or large enough only to be engulfed, the jaw opens and the stomach expands. Every feature of this animal is an adaptation to the same fundamental pressure. Calories are rare, waste nothing, and when food arrives, regardless of its size, consume it entirely. For all that has been documented about the gulper eel and deep-sea ROV technology has given us more than previous generations had access to, there are significant gaps. We do not have reliable population estimates. The gulper eel has a global distribution in deep tropical and subtropical waters, Atlantic, Pacific, Indian Oceans, but how many exist is genuinely unknown. We have never observed mating behavior in the wild. What we know about gulper eel reproduction comes primarily from anatomical examination of collected specimens, not direct observation. We do not know the full lifespan. Deep-sea fish often live significantly longer than shallow water relatives. Cold temperatures, slow metabolism and aging, but precise longevity data for the gulper eel does not exist. And perhaps most significantly, we do not fully understand the bioluminescent tail system. The structure has been documented. The pulsing behavior has been filmed. But the specific signaling patterns, whether different pulse rates communicate different things, whether the system is used for anything beyond prey attraction, whether there is intraspecific communication happening through the tail light, these questions remain open. A 2021 study published in Deep Sea Research examined gulper eel behavior from ROV footage across Pelican. Multiple expeditions and documented the tail-curling lure behavior with greater detail than previous research. But it also noted how much remained unresolved. In the student's own language, the gulper eel represents a significant gap in our understanding of deep mesopelagic predator ecology, an animal with a global distribution, observable behavior that raises more questions than it answers, and a body plan so extreme that it continues to surprise researchers who have spent careers studying deep-sea fish. The gulper eel broke a rule, not metaphorically. It broke an actual biological rule, the rule that says you cannot swallow something larger than yourself, by evolving a jaw and a stomach specifically designed to make that rule not apply to it. And it did this not through brute force, not through size or strength or speed, but through structural modification so complete that the jaw is now 1/4 of the animal's entire body length, and through an elastic stomach that changes the eel's body shape around whatever enters it, and through a bioluminescent tail that lures prey directly into the open jaw. All of it functioning together as a single integrated system, designed by one pressure. Food is scarce. When it comes, eat it, whatever it is, whatever size it is. Find a way, and the gulper eel found a way, millions of years ago, in cold dark water at 1,000 meters. And it has been working that way ever since. Right now, in the mesopelagic zone of multiple oceans simultaneously, gulper eels are drifting, tails curling forward, bioluminescent tips pulsing, jaws slightly open, waiting for something to approach the light, patient in a way that nothing with a warm metabolism can fully understand, in a darkness that has been their home for longer than our species has existed. If the real, documented, stranger-than-fiction natural world is what brings you to this channel, you already know what to do. Subscribe, because there is so much more of this waiting. Every single word of it is true. Every single animal already out there, right now, in the dark.